Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Grief Empowerment Theory. Uh, the thing is, life will do funny things for you. And today, I just ran into a situation where it is due to the fact that she unfortunately had circumstances, but she has turned those circumstances into an incredible, an incredible benefit. And before I go any further, because again, this is another young lady that I would talk to the high heavens about. So I'm going to take a second to just, Jen, please explain to people what you do, what has happened, what's giving you a reason to do what you do.
How much time do you have? No, I'm kidding.
We got the
Um,
whole hour here.
oh
So,
my goodness, that's amazing. Well, I thank you so much for having me on. And this all started with, the whole thing that none of us are guaranteed an easy go at this life. And mine happened to start a little bit earlier, the hard times in life. I was 15 when I had a lot of chronic illness plaguing me, and at 15 was diagnosed with kidney failure and had my first of two kidney transplants. And that sort of set my perspective on life, I believe, even though I was a teenager and thought I'm invincible. So fix me and I'll go on with life and it'll be fine. But that sort of set my perspective on life and gratitude. And I've moved forward with that since then. And I am so grateful to be able to share my experience and my training and even some of those other hard parts in life that came later on for me in order to support and guide others, caregivers, patients who are feeling the weight of the world on their shoulders as they're caring for themselves and or loved ones. So that's what I do as a coach. I like to focus on prosilience coaching or proactive resilience coaching. So bringing your resilience up to a benchmark that supports you and then helping you prepare for future challenges.
you know what? Talk about the Prosilience method and how that actually came into play in your life and, you know, what it does for people.
Sure. Well, I started general life coaching about 7 years ago. I came out of a 16-year marketing career and was loving general life coaching and shared my story with clients or organizations, or if I was doing speeches and people would always ask me, how are you so resilient? And I didn't know. I was like, I guess I didn't think I had a choice, and or it's just something that I do. But I started to research more. Compassion fatigue, compassion resilience, resilience. How does mindfulness play into all of those things? And I ran across a framework by an industrial organizational psychologist named Linda Hoops. She wrote a book called Prosilience based around this framework. So it's that proactive resilience piece. And I wanted to adapt it for supporting caregivers and patients. So the Prosilience framework takes into consideration resilience as being able to maintain high levels of effectiveness and well-being while dealing with high levels of challenge and disruption. And there are some core thoughts and key concepts that go along with that, like maybe resiliency is more like a verb than something that we're all having to build, right? I mean, we all work on it, but we're all born with it and we can build it as we walk through life. And she uses this wonderful 4 building blocks of resilience to help us all feel empowered facing challenges. So that's really one reason why I love the name of your concept and your show, Grief Empowerment Theory, because it has that empowerment piece. So even though we weren't handed something easy, right? This is a challenge. Grieving is a challenge. We can at least have some sort of structure around it to help us feel like we have a little bit more control in situations where we really don't have tons of control.
Well, you know what's interesting, Jen? It's not that we don't have control. It's that we have a difficult time understanding the level of
Mhm.
control that we have.
True.
The reality is, what we go through is a lot.
Mhm.
We are placed in very challenging situations, but the reality is, life is challenging.
Yes.
And everything that we go through in life is that challenge, but a big part of that challenge is designed to grow us.
Yes.
Everything that we go through. Allow me to ask you this.
Yes.
When you work with your clients, how do you help them to shift their mind frame? Because again, we look at pain as the ultimate and we want to run from it. So how do
Yes.
you get them to be resilient and confront it?
Well, I was so honored to receive this feedback from a client a few months ago who said that she reached out to me because I have a keen insight into the preciousness of life. So I think that's sort of foundation with which I approach most things because I have faced losing my life so many times and or losing loved ones and helping them care for themselves so that they can be here in on earth as long as they can. So coming from that mindset and that perspective helps me see things in a different way that then I can gently observe for my clients. And a lot of times, with coaching, it's those powerful questions that can help put a new meaning in things.
That is true. It is all about how you frame
Mm.
the circumstance, how you frame the way you question or speak to your client.
Mhm.
I remember when I first got into this. See, I'm a very direct person,
Yeah,
and I learned that being direct is not going to help you as a coach, you know.
it's true.
But then I also had to understand that when you're doing what you do with clients, you have to learn empathy. You have to
Mhm.
learn compassion. What, in addition to your personal circumstances, when you talk with your clients, when you talk with people, the ones that say, "I can't do this. There's no way,"
Yeah.
you are a miracle. What do you say to them to,
I
you
like
know,
started blushing immediately when you said oh yeah, I apologize. I totally interrupted you there, but I think
no,
I
no,
know where
that's
you were going.
okay.
So no, it's I feel very humbled when people say that, and I'm honored that I'm able to stand here in a role to be a guiding light, no matter how kind of weird that feels to say. I usually, of course, acknowledge where everyone is. It's important for me to meet the people that I work with where they're at. And there's not always a fast track out of that gap that you're experiencing. So I use my empathy, my compassion, my life experience, my training to create a welcoming, non-judgmental, loving space where you can process and experience and explore all of those things that you're feeling. Because I always say, how human of you.
Understood.
And then I offer, I understand if you can't get to that place of this new perspective right now. Let me be the one that holds that vision for you in the belief that I know that you can get there.
That right there it's a great way to be able to guide a person into a circumstance. Because again, dealing in any form of grief, you know that you can't be impactful from the door.
Mhm.
You have to kind of guide a person into being able to find their, like you said, their resilience, find
Mhm.
their strength, understand that they do have it, you know, but it does take time.
Right.
It takes time.
And that whole idea of healing, working through grief, all of those things isn't a straight line.
No,
Right? You
no.
might be on this trajectory and then all of a sudden it just goes into a swirl. And so it's also holding that space and normalizing that for people. Like, yes, this is part of the human condition and experience. And I'm here to support you. Specifically, I really love helping people learn to manage their energy because energy fuels our resilience. And
Absolutely.
so when I can hold the space and help people build their tips and tricks for how to manage their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy, and to be able to, and especially with those emotions, sit with, but not in, sit in, no, sit with those difficult emotions,
Right.
right? Acknowledge them, feel them, process them, and when you're ready, release them to a new feeling. Because it's when we sit in and get stuck in, it's where we aren't able to move forward in life. Even carrying that grief, still with us, carrying the memory of those loved ones still with us, but being able to move forward in a different way that can honor their life as well.
Absolutely. That's what's interesting is that the the prosilience model. I was obviously doing something related to that without ever really knowing about it.
Oh,
I
right.
heard from it from you, but the aspects, things like honoring,
Mhm.
understand that there's a difference between allowing the circumstance of the grief to hold you down and allowing you to honor the time that you were with the person,
Mhm.
the circumstance. I heard Ray Lewis talk about the dash in the middle
Oh, yeah.
versus versus the end date. And to kind of put an extra spin on that, the whole thing was all about look, understand that celebrating the time that you have with them, that dash means that you're celebrating the time inclusive of your relationship. That's honoring.
Yeah.
On the other part, it's just simply looking at the time that they're gone and going from there. I have a quick question. There's a gentleman named Mr. C. First off, how are you, Mr. C? His question is he lost his mother many years ago. And at times he feels guilty. And I don't think or reflect on her enough. And he wonders, is that bad?
Wow. I mean, if I may, the first thing I would say to Mr. C is thank you so much for sharing and that vulnerability. And the fact that you have that question within you, doesn't that mean that you're reflecting on her even when it may not be conscious? Like subconsciously, is she with you? Do you see signs every once in a while and little blips or memories come up that make you reflect on, like, do we need to set a specific time and place to reflect on and remember those that we've lost? Or as we flow through life and memories flit through, or butterflies fly in front of us, or a cardinal sits in our backyard, is that reflection enough? Is that loving enough? But first off, I would just want to say that the fact that you even have that question means that you reflect on her. And I would really invite you to release that guilt, because what does guilt bring you? It can only water down the love and honor that you have for your mom.
Jen, that's great advice because the reality is, I think that is something that a lot of people deal with, struggle with. It, especially when somebody passes. I mean, I remember, you know, what kind of got me into doing what I'm doing. The My wife passed, and when she died, it took me some time because I was probably like Mr. C. Although I concentrated on her a lot,
Mhm.
there were times where I didn't want to think about her because it was difficult for me to try to reclaim and identify myself. And I don't know if that's Mr. C's circumstance or not. I'm just saying I know that I had something related to that. Some people, some people may there's always a different reason as to why they feel they're not, you know, um, being enough with the person that they've left.
Mhm.
you know and that's a very hard aspect of grief
Yeah.
because it's that factor of guilt. How do you, I mean, other than what you just said,
Yeah.
how do you talk about that, the grief related to, you know a- any type of
Mhm.
any type of situation you're dealing with, because it's not just about a loss.
Right.
There's
So I love that question. And I actually have a quick story that then will go into, I think, a very powerful question that can help support people. So, beyond my health issues, I also have a beautiful adopted daughter. Brought her home when she was 5 weeks old. And when she was 7, she was diagnosed with a low grade brain tumor. Now she's 15. We've been managing it very well for the past 8 years. There are those things that come about that you don't expect. During that time of her diagnosis, I was dealing a lot with the grief of what wouldn't happen, if that makes sense. And also the grief of just the diagnosis and not knowing what was going to happen. One of my first questions to the neurosurgeon was, they would share all of the risks and benefits of the initial treatment. My question was always, are we going to take her home with us? And he said yes. I said, great. So I'm taking myself back to that week of diagnosis. She was 2 brain surgeries in for the week, and we were waiting for like biopsy results and those types of things. And I am very comfortable in the hospital setting. I'm very weird in that respect. But at this one moment, which is completely normal, everything started to feel like this inside of me. Everything that I had been able to manage and be in the survival mode had calmed enough where all of the other emotions and thoughts and grief of what wasn't going to happen or might not happen, that anticipatory grief, anxiety of future treatments, all started bubbling up inside of me. And I would have lost it in the room. That's fine, because we need to feel all of the feelings. But that her care team was there, I had family there, she was there, my husband was there. So I was bracing myself to feel, and all of a sudden a calm came over me. The room felt calm, and a voice outside of me asked, who do you want to be for her? Do you want to be sterility and cold and fear and the hospital room? and anxiety and a manifestation of the grief? Or do you want to be love and compassion and reminders of home and humor and joy and the glimmers that we can experience even in this difficult time? So I chose the latter. I think I said that right.
Yeah.
So the love aspect. And that question that came to me from somewhere has guided my journey the last 8 years. And I share that with all of the people that I work with. Who do you want to be for the person that you're, helping heal, or the person that you're missing? And who do you want to be for yourself in that experience?
And that is an important question you're asking yourself. And what's interesting is the revelation that a person gets. You know, it's so funny that you say that, the voice.
Yeah.
Let me say, I hate getting into me when I'm doing the interview, but I have to get into me because
Yeah.
I heard a voice. To the point where I thought I was going crazy. You know,
Right? Yeah. I've heard it a couple times.
right. But you know what? I've actually I've researched that phenomenon. Not, and not on a religious plane or anything of that nature.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Although it does have, there are connotations to it.
Sure.
But what's interesting is that there's something in the universe, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
that will guide you. It's gonna give you a route
Mhm.
based on understanding of you asking yourself a question.
Right.
What do you want? What do you truly want? And it's like, now you don't have time to stray the fence.
Mhm.
It's, hey, there's a fork in the road. Are you going left or are you
Which
going
one?
right?
So I love that, right? And I do work as an intuitive coach as well. I do believe that, we all have a direct connection to something outside of ourselves, something full of meaning and purpose, be it God, be it the universe, be it universal consciousness, whatever makes sense to you. And being able to quiet myself enough to allow that information and that guidance to come in, I think is one reason that I'm able to, even in the face of challenge, find the glimmers, find my way forward. I'm not saying I Pollyanna it all the time, right? I'm not always happy. That is the way. Life is a choice, and that is the choice I make. I choose to open myself up to the highest good to help guide myself and others, and take action on that. And that is my favorite building block of Prosilience, is managing energy. And one of the ones I love to talk about is the spiritual energy, and that finding the connection of meaning and purpose outside of yourself that can help fill and recharge you, so that you can really power your resilience muscles to meet challenges, and you can choose the strategy that's right for that challenge. And you can learn to calm yourself and regulate your central nervous system, so that you can truly be in wise mind and not reactive mind, if you're not facing an immediate danger right in front of you.
Understandable. Yeah, you have transferred from, you said you had a 16-year marketing career,
Mhm.
and you have become a keynote speaker, you know, a panelist, I mean, motivational speaker. You've done some amazing things, segueing from one world to another. How easy was it to actually make that kind of change? And
Oh,
what did you do when you finally made that decision?
well, again, it was like a voice. Well, so my training originally, I have a theater degree.
Okay.
So I have a theater and public relations degree. So Like people ask me, oh, you've been doing these podcasts or you go be on panels. Like, aren't you nervous? I'm like, no, I love it. It's so easy. Like I jump on and it's just, I share. I love, especially the way that you run your show is just the conversational aspect of it. And it's just two humans connecting, or it's me connecting with other humans in the audience, or, in a group facilitation or whatever. So, I mean, it really is sort of, I trusted in the unfolding.
You know what? First off, I want to thank you for that because it's it's funny. I got a public relations degree as well,
Mhm.
and it's very interesting because I'll never forget. My mom was like, "You got a degree in that?" And
What are
I
you
was
going to do with
like, "Right, right. Like, what are you gonna do with it?"
it? Yeah.
But I mean, it's not just that. It's very interesting how you've taken the circumstance that you dealt with, the challenge,
Mhm.
and like you said, taking a very resilient approach, taking an approach to saying that I'm going to find a way
Mhm.
to manage through the challenge, and not only manage through it, I'm going to use it to my advantage.
Mhm.
That's again another reason why I was so happy to have a person like you on the show, because that's what this show's concept is about. So
Right.
explain how you've been able to find a way to use your challenge to your advantage and turn it into a fuel.
Right. That is a great reflection question. I kind of just take the next step each time. So moving out of my marketing career, I mean, it was awesome. I worked at Harley Davidson motorcycles. Like I went and did events for them. I was at Sturgis. I was at National Bikers Roundup. I loved it. I worked and doing events in Times Square. So it was always very interactive. I always love conversing with people. Um, when my daughter was diagnosed, it was about the same time that the organization was going through another round of layoffs. And I remember getting the notice that it's possible I would be in that round of layoffs. And something reminded me of someone in high school saying something like, oh, you'd be a great life coach. Now, mind you, I graduated high school in 1995. So I don't know how many life coaches there were. I had never heard of it. I don't know how my friend had heard of it. But anyway, that's always kind of been in the back of my head. After my daughter's diagnosis, it was very difficult for me to find a way to manage my anxiety about the situation. I did have some resilience. I could get through the medical aspects of it super easy, which is very strange for most people. But it was the emotional piece. It was the calming piece. I was a walking manifestation of anxiety. And as soon as I got that noticed that I might be laid off, something I was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'll try this life coaching thing. So I reached out to a past coworker who was in the coaching industry, had a coffee with her, and 3 months later, I was enrolled in life coach certification as well as a mindfulness based stress reduction 8-week course for me. So I was doing it for my career, right? The life coach certification. I was doing it for me. I had
I
no
understand
idea.
that. I understand that. Now I understand you actually, speaking of those aspects. I You have a method to be able to have people reach out to you, and you help them calm themselves. I
Mhm,
mean, you do it on Instagram and you do it on Facebook.
mhm.
Um, Talk about that a little bit, please.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's super simple. Like we all pretty much like to scroll, and sometimes we get into that endless scrolling piece, but also sometimes we're doing that because it's helping us manage feelings of anxiety or loneliness or feeling churned up inside and not knowing where to go next or what to do. And so we sit and we scroll. So I invite you, the next time you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook or even LinkedIn, and you're feeling that, and you know that you'd like to experience something in a different way, go ahead and message me. Just message me the word calm, and I will share some surefire ways to help you bring yourself back into that calm so that you can be in your wise mind. You can be regulated in your central nervous system and your emotions so that you can make the decision that's the next right one for you to take a step forward or to accept yourself exactly where you're at and to appreciate who you are and where you're at. So really, the importance of being able to recognize our triggers and then be able to self-regulate our central nervous systems is the first step to being able to make those best choices for us as we go through some very difficult, challenging life experiences.
You know, that's interesting because it's the grief, the emotions of grief, they're a monster,
Oh my God.
and
Yeah.
they will attack every aspect. Especially, it will take you out of your game when it comes to your self-esteem, your self-confidence,
Mhm.
and
Motivation, right?
motivation.
Self-motivate.
It 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 puts anxiety on a high. It's very funny, and this is just a side note.
Yeah.
Just recently, me and my daughter for Father's Day took me to go see Inside Out Part Two.
Oh my gosh. I'm
And,
driving my daughter to the movies to see that today too.
and let me tell you something. It's great.
Mm,
It's great, but I'm not going to give you spoilers.
sure.
But again, there is a character called Anxiety,
Hmm.
and you're going to learn since you're going today. You're going to learn a lot about her. But
Yeah.
it's very interesting because learning to take a calm approach in the middle of chaos.
Hmm.
What a lot of people don't realize is that you now adapt a whole new level of strength when you do that.
Hmm.
You know, I know that the world around us doesn't, it wants us to stay in victim mode.
Yes.
But the minute you make that decision to avoid victim mode, and I call it running into the fire when everybody else is running out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that type of thing.
Oh yeah.
Um, let me let me ask you something again. Back to the Prosilience mindset.
Yeah.
How do you help to recruit people to be able to learn more about it because
Mm.
it seems like a very interesting program.
Yeah. Well, there is the Resilience Alliance is the organization that I received my personal resilience practitioner um, certification through. And so that is available to anyone who'd be interested in taking the course. And that's resiliencealliance.com. Um, I also am in the process of putting together an online workshop, probably later in August, early September, just centering on the fourth building block of resilience within the Prosilience framework, which is that managing energy piece. And then there's also a really, really cool aspect of this resilience, prosilience model, which is the personal resilience assessment. And there are practitioners on the Resilience Alliance website who can do this. I also offer this service where you can go online, take a 15 to 20-minute online survey, which then can identify which of the 7 resilience muscles you most easily access during challenge. So, like your challenge superpower, we can discover that. And then also take a look at some of the other 7. Which ones would you like to have a better ease of access when you're in a challenge. So those resilience muscles are positivity, confidence, connection. Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting these? Positivity, confidence, priorities, creativity, connection, structure, and experimenting. We all have these resilience muscles in us. It's just some of them take less energy for us to access them during challenge. So those are the ones that we go to most easily. However, the goal would be to build those muscles so that you have like a horizontal um, equality in each of them. So you have so much more support during challenge. And there are specific activities that you can take to build each of those muscles if you want to. So I think that's a really cool, like, first step you can take if you're interested in the resilience method. Also, reading the book Prosilience by Linda Hoops. That's how I found it. You know, when I read that book, I kind of sat back astonished and said, it's like she's been watching my life for the like since I was 15, because it described, put language to, put a framework around everything that I had been doing just naturally. And I was actually very, very humbled when she spoke with me and said, you know, you really embody what prosilience is. And so I'm so grateful to be able to take that now with language and applicable skills to others to support them through life's challenges.
I mean, that's great because I went on your website. I understand that you're a workshop facilitator. You
Mhm,
know already
mhm.
you you've done so much now. That, like I said, that fourth building block,
Yeah.
harnessing your energy. That's interesting because
Mhm,
I understand that when I talk to my clients, I let them know that the emotions of grief that we manage,
mhm.
they are energies. And,
Yes.
you know, like I said, and I'm not speaking on any type of mystical plane. I am literally talking about the science behind it.
Everything is energy.
You know,
Einstein said that, right?
and it's so interesting because I use in physics, I use the concept of um, energy
Mhm.
never dying.
Right.
The conservation of energy concept,
Mhm.
it simply states that energy can't die or
Mhm.
be created, but it can
Simply
be
transforms.
right. It can be manipulated.
Yeah.
Transformation. It was
Yeah.
very interesting. I speak to my clients. I give them a visual of transference in action. I tell them things like, "Have you ever played a game of pool?
Mhm.
A game of pool, that's transference. The entire game."
Yeah.
And then I let them know that the stick represents the grief,
Mhm.
and you represent the cue ball. You know, you're a potential energy, but when you get hit by that stick,
Mm.
you have an option, and you're gonna bang into something,
Mhm.
another ball. But the goal is to have the other ball go into a pocket so that everybody is a win-win.
Yeah.
That's it. And my whole thing is like you just talked about, letting people understand energy and letting them understand that they can control how they direct it. They can't control the energy, but they can control how they direct it.
Yes.
And once they understand that aspect, then it allows them to say to themselves, okay, I can go to the next level.
Mhm.
Because if you look at it the wrong way, you can allow that grief to sit on you like an 800-pound gorilla.
Mhm.
But when you make the decision to shift your mind, you transfer it. I, I was having a conversation yesterday. I did a podcast with a gentleman named Dr. Darren Parker,
Mhm.
and I actually was the guest this go round, which was cool.
How
But
fun.
yeah, that was fun. You know,
Uh-huh.
but I talked to him. He asked me the question about energy transfer, and I gave him two very distinct circumstances
Mhm.
that prove this fact that we can shift energy to work to our advantage. And they happen to be sports analogies because he's a fitness, he is a doctor and fitness is his thing.
Sure.
So I talked to him about Brett Favre. Now,
Oh, now you're talking my
that,
language.
that
I'm
I
a
thought
I'm a
because you,
cheesehead.
hey, well, you're from Wisconsin. Come on,
I'm
man.
from Wisconsin. I mean, we have Jordan Love right now, so we'll keep going with him. But
But,
I'm very familiar with Brett Favre. Okay.
well, in '03, remember when Brett Favre demolished the Raiders
Yeah.
42-7?
I mean, I don't remember the specifics, but I bet we were
Well,
pretty happy.
put it this way, it was 24 hours after his dad died from a heart
Yes,
attack.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so all the analysts said he wasn't going to play.
Mm-mm.
They said, and if he was going to play bad. This man went out on the field and put on a clinic.
Mhm.
He had 377 yards in the game. He had 4 touchdowns in the
Mhm.
first half alone. Look,
I I love that. And you know what that is speaking to me is the him really connecting and harnessing and
yeah,
feeling his spiritual energy at that moment that then helped him manage his mental and physical and emotional energy in that very
absolutely.
difficult time.
Absolutely. I mean, it can, it, and he's not the only one. Another gentleman, this in the basketball realm. His name was Isaiah Thomas, played for the
Yeah.
Boston Celtics at the time. And in 2017, he lost his sister to a car accident.
Mhm.
That weekend was the playoffs, and he had to play the Bulls in the first round. This man scored 33 points on the
Mhm.
weekend that his sister passed away.
Mhm.
Then in round two, he had to play Washington Wizards. He dropped 55 points on his sister's birthday.
Oh,
He had to
wow.
play that game. The point that I'm making is that we do have the ability to channel and harness,
Mhm.
pinpoint the circumstance, and make the choice.
Mhm.
You said that earlier.
Mhm.
This is a choice because we can't help the circumstance. We can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I say this to my clients a lot too, which is you can't you can't do anything about broken eggs. You can't,
Mhm.
except you can make incredible omelets out of them.
That's true. Yeah.
And the reality is, it's all about how you see it,
Mhm.
how you're choosing to address the matter.
Yeah.
It's please
I
go
was
right
just
ahead.
gonna say, this is bringing up for me some really deep work I did for myself when I first started my coaching certification. And I was living in so much fear at the time of what happens if we lose our daughter? What happens if I get sick again and can't find another kidney? How will my husband and daughter move forward? It was almost paralyzing. And I'm so grateful to my instructors and mentors who walked me through that. And actually, I've done a lot of work to change my relationship with the idea of death and loss. I think that's one reason why I can hold space for people who are, going through such difficult life challenges, especially with health, because I've done that work. And it has to do with energy, and everything is energy. And so, I don't like play it over and over, but I think through like what happens if I lose someone very close to me here in the physical realm? Like, will I be devastated? Will I be sad? Yes, those are all energies and emotions that I will feel and I will honor. And I know deep in my gut that everything is energy. And so that energy will be with me and around me, maybe not in the sense that I can like touch and hold, but I can experience. And so that's one reason I think I can do some of this very difficult work with people, is because I've done that work for myself. And I'm not expecting or asking everyone to do that work, but I wanted to do that work so I could be that space of hope in dark times and help bring light when people are in storms, because I do have this great connection to hope and honoring people. And it's kind of thoughts out here that I'm trying to explain, but it's just a deep feeling and knowing that I have.
And what's interesting is that it's understandable to be like, okay, this is that type of thing now, but no, it is so on point because it's back to we were just talking about this a little while ago. Honoring,
Mhm.
honoring the person. If it's it can be anything. Hey, the job that lets you go, you
Yep.
can honor it by simply saying, "Look what you did. You had this great job at Harley Davidson, and something happened, and you were let go." It, it reminds me. I tell my clients about this story all the time. There was a gentleman who worked for an investment company called Solomon Brothers for 12 years. 12 years, 15-hour days,
Whew.
doing this thing. But he loved what he did,
Mhm.
but they decided to let him go. They fired him, gave him a severance package, told him to go on his way. That man is now worth $96 billion, and his name happens to be Michael Bloomberg.
Ooh, I know
See,
that name.
and right, what's interesting about that is that if he had never been fired from Solomon Brothers,
Mhm.
the Bloomberg empire would never have manifested.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is honoring the circumstance
Mhm.
doesn't mean you have to like what happened, but it does mean that you can respect that the time that you had, you learned some valuable things working with Harley Davidson.
Oh yeah.
They have allowed you to be able to grow your career to do what you're doing now.
Mhm. Life is
And
so serendipitous if we choose to
yes,
see it that way.
yes,
It
yes.
happened with my first job too. I was laid off. Um, so we adopted our daughter um, in the state, and I spoke with the adoption agency on a Thursday to make the appointment to meet her birth parents the next Tuesday. Friday, I get called into this event marketing agency, the president, and was laid off. And Tuesday we went and met the birth parents, and a month and a half later brought our daughter home, and I had 9 months at home with her until I started my career at Harley.
See, you see,
See, it's
like
like doom, da doom, da doom, da doom.
things happen. It's interesting. Jen, I could be on with you all day.
I agree.
You know, I mean, you have this incredible energy about you.
Thank you.
You have a great outlook. And like I said, you've been able to successfully take that broken egg and make an incredible omelet out of it. You know, it's 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 great to know that there are people like yourself who are out fighting the good fight
Mm.
against all the negativity out here, because we do live in a world that there is a lot of negativity.
Mhm.
There are a lot of challenges, forcing people to believe that they're not as awesome and as wonderful as they are.
Mhm.
So I thank you again for doing that, because, uh, you know what? Again, another comment from our friend Mr. C. He said, "Thank you both. Excellent show, and it'll definitely be following a lot more for the content." I thank you, man. I
Thank you,
do
Mr.
thank you,
C.
because I look. I'm new at this, and I'm gonna say, being serious. I'm very blessed to have people like Jen who want to come on the show, tell their stories, and want to use it as a vehicle that's going to allow them to be able to help as many people as possible. So again, thank you, Jen. Let me ask you, what do you have going on in the future? What's the next big thing for Jen?
Well, the next big thing for me is working toward inviting people into this one-time managing or powering up your personal energy workshop. So that will be going on my website here in the next couple of weeks. Right now, if you're interested in learning more about your resilience muscles, I do have an opportunity for you to take the personal resilience questionnaire and then have a one-on-one debrief session with me where we talk about your resilience muscles, your strengths, where you'd like to build them, and then come up with an action plan for doing that to make it easier to, you know, meet life's challenges. And like you had mentioned earlier in the show, if you're feeling very churned up inside one day and you would just like some reminders or some tips on how to calm yourself, just message me calm on Facebook, on Instagram, or on LinkedIn. And I'd be more than happy to lead you through a couple of exercises via those DMs that way. I just really, really want to thank you for creating such a wonderful, welcoming space. Your energy also is healing. And I wanted to acknowledge you for that. And I just want to leave people with this thought. You don't have to wait until things are better to live better. So let's
You
find
know,
your way in doing that.
that is an incredible thought, and a great way to end this show. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I just wanted to say thank you all for coming on to the show today. Jen, especially thank you. And I want everybody to be reminded that you have the power, and you can transform your grief into a gift at any point you choose. So, again, thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for watching. Jen, you are the absolute best. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you.